welcome today to our psychiatry webinar, where we're going to be covering both Jeannie and Gen 2. My name's Michelle Blanchard. I'm the General Manager of Jeannie Solutions, and it's great to be talking to you today. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet virtually today. For me, here in Brisbane, where our Jeannie Solutions head office is, that's the Turrbal people and the Yuggera people. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So today you're going to hear from me, and you're also going to hear from Sean Nolan, who's our customer education specialist. And Sean has been with us close to 10 years, so has very deep practice and Jeannie and Gen 2 knowledge. Normally we'd also hear from Neve Tobin, who's our Director of Product Strategy and Design, but today she's actually on site with customers. So I'll be stepping you through the roadmap today. I'd just like to start off with a thank you to you as our customers. Thank you for your patience as we've worked through some very, very large compliance projects. Those of you that are Jeannie users and maybe even Mac users, the much long-awaited 64-bit work finally completed at the end of last year. And then we've had Medicare Web Services, we've had active ingredient prescribing, and most recently e-prescribing. So a lot of big, long projects, majority of them, besides 64-bit, under the direction of the government and those timelines. So what that's meant is that our roadmap, which is usually and ideally full of delivering functionality that you of our customers have given us feedback and asked for, and we can build for you to continue to enhance the product, all of our development resources have had to be applied to these big compliance projects. So thank you for bearing with us through that. Really pleasing to be able to be here today to say they are done. We are now 100%. All of our development teams are starting to really crack through all of those asks. And we have a long list, and I'll talk to you a little bit more around how our voice of customer and how we collect that feedback. But we are starting to work through that now, which is great for our development teams and their creativity, but also, most importantly, will translate into product improvements for you. At the end of the session, we will have Q&A. So there is a Q&A button down the bottom of your screen there. So please type your questions in as we go through, and we will answer those at the end of the webinar. This webinar is also being recorded. So if there's anyone in your practice or any of your colleagues, we'll be able to share that out, and they can watch that at a later date. You will see on our logo now, we're Jeannie Solutions, a Magentis company. I assume most of you should have received an email from us telling you what that actually means. We did have a change of ownership 12 months ago. We're now owned by private equity partners, a private equity group, and we joined into another organisation with various software holdings called Citadel. We're still very much part of that, but what we've created is a health technology group within in that private equity owned entity. So we're now called Magentis, and Jeannie Solutions sits in the practice management division of Magentis, and then we have other divisions in the UK and in Australia that operate across clinical systems, health informatics, and patient safety. So no ownership change, just a new brand, but we are coming together as a tighter healthcare tech group, which will enable us to uncover opportunities to leverage each other's strength and to the benefit of our customers. So now I'm going to jump straight into product. I will talk through Gen 2 first, and then into Jeannie. So this image here, some of you may have seen it or may not have before. This is our platform vision. And it's centered around our technology platform. This foundational technology platform is important because it enables us to guide us on our ongoing product innovations and into the future. These innovations are focused on 3 key areas, as you'll see there on the slide, which is patient experience, connected ecosystem, and data-driven insights. So firstly, by improving the patient experience, we're providing you with tools to automate the patient journey. And then what we want to do is also work on connecting up the disconnected ecosystem. You'll be hearing a lot about interoperability. The government has just announced significant funding into that space over the next 4 years. And I'm sure I don't have to tell you how poor the information flow is between specialists, referrers, etc. And we want to play a strong role in helping you connect that. And then the final data-driven piece there is about data that we can help you use for clinical decision support. We've been working on this for a number of years now, and we're making really good progress. You'll see that this sits in between both Genie and Gen 2. So the idea here is by forming a platform, despite which technology you're using, you'll be able to benefit from these development initiatives. So we've so far delivered patient forms, patient payments and specialist bookings, and more recently Voice, that you'll hear a little bit more about, and Insights are our first 2 partners that we've connected using our FHIR-based APIs. So what about what are our customers telling us about the cloud? So we survey our customers every 2 years. We've got a new survey coming out soon. But the last one that we did 2 years ago, 56% of Genie users told us that they want to move to the cloud. And there's numerous reasons for that. A big part of it is around the cost of running hardware. Often the tipping point is a Genie practices server is end of life, and they're looking at a big bill to get a new server, and they think, oh gosh, can we do this differently? Can we move to the cloud? Also interested in moving to the cloud because it gives greater flexibility to run and access a practice from various ways. So what are we doing about that? How are we enabling or setting it up, our business up, so that we can have Gen 2 ready for Genie practices to move when they are ready? So what we've done in the last 6 months is we actually doubled our resourcing, doubled our teams on Gen 2, and we now have them working in 2 very specific streams. We have 2 teams working on the clinical area, so doctor or practitioner, and 2 working in the admin area. And really, as I mentioned, we've got a long list of things that you've been asking for, and so we're working through those in those 2 user areas that will make the experience better for the current Gen 2 user, but also make Gen 2 even close that gap more so between the Genie functionality and the Gen 2 functionality. So I'm just going to now move on to our Gen 2 roadmap and what's coming. Just before I do that, I'll just say that of all of our customers, we have over 5,000 specialist practices. About 60% are still on Genie, on the desktop product. But 40% of those have moved to the cloud. We are still the practice management software leader for medical specialists. We have between 70 to 75% of all specialists are using either Genie or Gen 2. So where is Gen 2 at the moment? some people think, oh gosh, it's still really in its infancy. It's just a, an early stage product. But we've been developing this hard for over 5 years now. We've got over 1,500 practices using Gen 2. And so that's even more doctors, obviously, because many of those practices have more than one doctor working in that space. So what specialties? We have, from a psychiatry perspective, we have 59% of psychiatry practices are using Gen 2, and the rest are using Genie. So it is a little more in the Gen 2 space for this particular specialty. This differs specialty to specialty across all of our many 40 plus specialties that use either Genie or Gen 2. But we have found that psychiatrists have been really leading the way with adopting cloud technology to manage their practice. Practice size for the majority is still a single user practice. And so this isn't just for psychiatry, this is for all practitioners. You'll see 77% are still one doctor practice. But we are getting more and more moving into that 2 to 6 area particularly as practices grow and add more doctors to them, or they're moving from other software and there's already 2 or 3 in that practice and they want to come across to Gen 2, whereas historically they would have moved to Genie. Gen 2 still isn't ready for those really big practices as yet, but that certainly will be on our roadmap to improve to get to that point in the future. You can see the huge mix of specialties that we have there, and then a mix of practice size and also tenure of practices there, of who's moving from Genie to Gen 2. And why I share that with you is because there's some perception that, oh, Gen 2 is only suitable for these niche areas or certain sizes or certain specialties. And that's really not so much the case anymore. It certainly was in the early days, but now Gen 2 is becoming more and more suitable for all different types of practices. I did touch on your feedback and how important it is to us, and that really informs our roadmap. So we call this the Voice of Customer program, and we collect information from our customers in many, many different ways. You might send us an email, you might leave some feedback with support, you might talk to one of our trainers, you might give us feedback at a conference. I was just in Perth on Monday at the College of Psychiatry conference, actually, and got to meet maybe not you on the call here today, but a number of your colleagues, and we take all that information back. We collect it all in a big system, and then part of the role of the product manager is to actually synthesize all of that data and prioritize the areas of work based on demand and on need. We also do a customer survey. I just mentioned it briefly before. That will be coming out next week. So please do look out for that. It will be an email that comes from Gundabluey Research. So it's not spam, it's us, but we engage a third party to do that, because then all the data is anonymized and handed back to us. And if you do that, you can go in the draw to win a voucher. So $500 voucher, might be able to buy something, a new coffee machine for your practice or something like that. So please do take the time to give us your feedback. It is incredibly valuable, and you will benefit from it in the end, because your information will go directly into informing our roadmap. From a Gen 2 perspective, this is currently the top 4 voice of customer requests. So number 1 is, please get better at outgoing correspondence. So that's number 1 that the team is working on. Please improve how we book and manage appointments. And then the third one there is around invoicing and quoting. And then the fourth piece there is actually the clinical area and consulting with patients. So what have we done so far? Just recently, we released MIMS integrated into Gen 2, obviously e-prescribing, much awaited. It is not live in WA or Tas. If you're on the call here from there yet, that's not us. That's the additional hoops we have to jump through to get approval in those states. We are pushing to get that released as soon as possible. But we also release Voice, which is, many of you are probably familiar with Dragon, or Dragon Medical, which is owned by a company called Nuance. So we have integrated that voice dictation into Gen 2. What the teams are now working on is SMS updates and just giving you some more, the practice much more functionality in the SMS space. So you'll be able to create multiple SMS templates. Actually, I think I've got a slide here on it. No, I don't. Oh no, I will have more detail on that and outgoing correspondence, exactly what that means. So e-prescribing, MIMS, and also we are connected with ERX, which is fortunate because I don't know if you're familiar with the fact that the government called a tender and went to one script exchange provider, and so anyone that was using Medisecure in other practices is going to have to make this change to ERX. So fortunately, all of our connectivity is through ERX, so there'll be no additional work for practices and no additional change, but there will be significant particularly for GPs, unfortunately for them, but nothing for us, thank goodness. So I touched on Voice before. So Voice is our mobile dictation service using the Nuance technology. So if you're not familiar with this, please, and you're interested, please do connect with our team. There is you can message us after this, or if you go to our website, there's an inquiry form and someone would love to get in contact with you. Though at the end of this, we'll talk to you about an opportunity to do that for free for a period of time, because we would like to get everyone to have exposure to this mobile dictation app that's fully integrated into Gen 2. Getting great feedback on it. SMS, here you are. I knew I had a slide talking about what we're doing in SMS. So we will be able to create multiple templates. There'll be additional filters, and there will be more things that you can do from an SMS perspective: booking confirmations, referral reminders, payment reminders, etc. And also every practice will be able to get their own phone number, dedicated phone number, which is great. With all the spam everyone gets these days, I'm sure if you SMS your patients, and every time they're getting a different number, you may not get the engagement with those SMSs that you could if you could have a dedicated practice phone number that all your patients can save and know that safely they're getting communication from you, and it's not unfortunately all the spam that we're all subjected to. So really looking forward to releasing that right now, or any day now actually. Outgoing correspondence, this is an area that we've got a lot of feedback on. And we know that it's been a long time coming around letterhead templates, default user templates, and being able to attach documents to outgoing correspondence and emailing letters to patients securely. You'll also be able to use macros in letters, and that's currently only available in the consultation window, but that'll be also in the consultation area, but that will also be added to the letter area. We know that lots of you use SMD for communication, HealthLink, Medical Objects, Argus. we want you to be able to attach things there. So that's in this current piece of work that the team is on. So you'll be able to include pathology results and letters and send them via your current secure messaging provider. Hopefully those two areas are already resonating well with you. We're also working on a mobile app. So whilst dictation is mobile and app-based, we're also wanting a mobile app that enables you to access more areas of Gen 2. So we do have a couple of hundred practices that are already utilising this in beta and giving us feedback. But we're looking forward to releasing that in the coming months and making that available as a general release to everyone. You'll be able to access your consult notes, your appointment book, etc. So that is something that's also been high on the request list for some time now. We'll also be looking at clinical workflow improvements, so incoming document workflows. So currently, to add a scanned document to a patient record, you need to do that individually per patient. So we want to create a workflow that's similar to what we've got in Genie at the moment, where it goes to a process folder and documents can come into a central location and there can be allocated to be reviewed. So that's going to be applied in Gen 2. And we know that there's a number of other areas that we need to continue to evolve and improve on in the clinical area of Gen 2, and we'll be starting some of those, particularly around procedure templates. Not so relevant to you as psychiatrists, more in the surgical space, but we do have to balance our work across surgeon and non-surgeon requests. We're also working connecting this disconnected ecosystem. So we're in early stages at the moment with some key partners. One of the first ones is Sonic Health, who own Sullivan Nicolaides here in Queensland, Douglas Hanly Moir in New South Wales, and Clinipath, so depending on which state. And we're working on e-ordering solution that for pathology. So we're doing pathology first, and then radiology second. So we went. This is all about enabling better flow of pathology or diagnostic ordering, and giving visibility into you as practitioners to what is the status of those pathology orders. For example, has the patient actually gone and had their test? Do you need to follow up and send reminders there? So that will give some great visibility there for you. We also have e-bookings that we're in pilot with Healthscope, actually, in their private hospitals, and know that they've got quite a number of mental health clinics as well through there, and that will enable better booking flows into hospitals. So if you do having hospital admissions for any of your patients, instead of emailing or faxing or whatever that information into the bookings, that will be able to go electronically out of Genie or Gen 2. So as you can see, there's a lot happening in Gen 2. Gen 2 is just continuing to grow and evolve. Let me now jump into Genie. What are the top 3 requests from Genie practices? It's get a little bit better for consulting with patients. So the number one thing there was e-prescribing, but also more in that pathology and radiology space. For preparing for consultation is also a clinical area or a practitioner area of Genie that's highly requested for us to improve in. And then thirdly, booking and managing appointments. So we are prioritising those areas. So as you know, we've done 64-bit e-prescribing, and we recently released Insights, which is a partnership with a company called Cubico, which enables you to get greater insights into your practice performance and key business performance of your practice. And now we're moving on to additional functionality in e-prescribing. In the next Genie release, we'll have Word functionality back in there. Another piece from a prescription perspective is real-time prescription monitoring, and also migrating the existing ETP1 ERX implementation to Enterprise Adapter. But that's another prescribing space that we've had to round out to finish all of that e-prescribing work for Genie. Insights I just touched on there before. That's a business intelligence tool now available in Genie. The next Genie version, which should be out next week, it will address some bugs that we've got in there. One of the challenges with a big, deep product like Genie is every time there's a release, every time there's an improvement, we often do find some little bugs here and there, and then the next version actually fixes those. But we will be, it's not just about bug fixes at all. We will be releasing quite a lot of functionality in the next Genie release. And a big one that has been asked for is Word compatibility. I know we used to have that, but that's being brought back in, and a lot of practices that is a much awaited. E-prescribing, the additional functionality there is the private scripts, and also the status of the scripts, and also there's some work around in that brand substitution, allowed or not allowed section for e-prescribing. I'm just checking my notes here that Neve gave me to make sure that I have captured everything there. Real-time prescription monitoring. This is nationally implemented, and many of you are possibly using an external tool for this, but this will all be now integrated into Genie, and it will show those real-time alerts and help you better manage your prescribing of any controlled medicines. So that again will be in the next release. Also, actually, that won't be in the next release next week. That will be in the following one. Also will be more SMS improvements. So we're constantly evolving in that SMS space. I mentioned in Gen 2, we're also doing it in Genie. And we're also going to allow for a check of the patient's health insurance eligibility, which is something that a lot of practitioners and practices have been asking us for some time. This is similar to what I spoke to you about from a Gen 2 perspective. This is a pathology and radiology ordering and communication, and those e-bookings into the hospitals that we'll be able to more to automate and give you all greater visibility into. So that technology will be in, as I said, both Genie and Gen 2. So a lot of information there. I hope that was helpful for you, whether you're using Genie or Gen 2, or whether you're using Genie and thinking about using Gen 2. My number one message to you is there is a lot of functionality coming. We are back with releases. We are not just delivering what the government is asking us to build. We are back and we are building what you, our users, have been asking us to provide for you for some time. So I'm going to hand over to Sean now, and Sean is going to share some great product tips in both Genie and Gen 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. For those who have yet to meet me, my name is Sean Nolan. I'm the Customer Education Specialist here at Genie Solutions. I have over 10 years experience in training both Genie and Gen 2 customers, and I wanted to present some tips and tricks that I found useful for psychiatrists. I will be covering both Genie and Gen 2 as part of this demonstration. I will start with Genie. In my experience, when it comes to psychiatry, there are medications that are prescribed quite frequently, and often these medications have the same dose, frequency, and instructions. What you can do for these medications is you can set up the medication name, the dose, frequency, and instructions as a favorite. We call that quick scripts, and this will significantly reduce the number of clicks and amount of typing required when it comes to prescribing a medication. So quick scripts are accessible in the quick script drop-down menu of the clinical file. To create a new quick script, we first need to create a medication. So we click the plus button, and we can do a search for the medication we wish to add as our favorite or quick script. In this instance, I'm going to be searching for fluconazole. I double click on the variant that I need, and then I put in the dose, frequency, and instructions that are commonly used as part of the quick script. I then click Add to Quick Script at the bottom. You don't get an alert or anything visual. That is normal. If I cancel out of this window, and now I click that Quick Script drop-down menu, fluconazole is available to choose for any patient. When I click on that quick script, just like I've done so here, it is now ready to be printed out. To delete a quick script from your existing quick script list, you click the drop-down menu. If you're on Windows, you hold down the Alt key. If you're on a Macintosh computer, you hold down the Option key. Whilst you're holding that key, you click once, then you let go of the key. If I check my quick script drop-down menu, you can see that quick script that I had in my list has been removed. So quick scripts are fantastic for psychiatry in my experience. And if you've got the same medication, and for instance, it might be medication 1, and you've chosen a medication, but sometimes you've got different instructions for different patients, you should add each of those as its own quick script. This will save you a lot of time. The next function I want to show is pathology sets. Pathology sets are designed where you might be requesting the same group of pathology tests for a certain condition. To create a pathology set, we first go to the request window. We search for the first medication we want to add to our set. So for instance, FBC. We then keep searching for each medication we want to add to this group. And we double click on them to add them to the group. Once we're happy with our group, we click the Sets drop-down menu and we choose Save Set. We put in a name what we want to call this combination, for instance, standard screen. We click OK. Now, to show you how quick scripts work, I'm closing out of the pathology request window and I'm opening the pathology request window again. In the future, any patient, you can click that Sets drop-down menu and that group of tests will appear. There's also the ability to, after you've added a set like this, you might want to request an additional test, for instance, vitamin D. You could search separately for that individual test on the left-hand side, and it works as described. So you can see for those psychiatrists who commonly do multiple tests for one condition, save it as a set first, and this will save you a lot of time when you do computerized pathology requests. The next function I want to talk about is jump points. I find jump points especially fantastic for psychiatrists. The idea behind a jump point, it's designed to save you time when you're typing a letter. The concept is that you might have a template that's already been pre-filled with a lot of information, and you only fill out certain parts of that template. For instance, in psychiatry, I find medico-legal reports, sometimes you have the same content span across 4 pages, and you're only filling in answers into certain parts of this particular report. With just one press of a key, you can go to the first placeholder and type in what it is that you would like to use. You press that same key, it jumps to the next placeholder. So I'm going to show you an example of what a jump point looks like. You will see in my template, I have multiple places where there are 2 asterisk symbols next to each other. I'm just going to highlight some of those now. To use a jump point, And first, you should set it up in your template. Then on your keyboard, you press the F6 key once. You see how it jumped to my first jump point? I type in what I'd like to fill into this particular field. I press F6 again, and I type in. I press F6 again, and I keep pressing F6 every time after I've put in that particular jump point. So for those of you on the call who are watching this, if you want to implement jump points, it's recommended when you're creating a letter that you first go to the edit template screen to be able to put the jump points, being the two asterisk symbols, throughout the template. Then once you've saved the template and you wish to use it in the future, it's just F6 on your keyboard and you can keep going with your jump points. Next, as part of today's demonstration, I'm going to be going through Gen 2 tips. Just like Genie, Gen 2 has got pathology sets. So to create a pathology set in Gen 2, I go to the new request window for pathology. We first choose our laboratory. Then we search for each individual test we want to add as part of this set. So for instance, I've got full blood count, electrolytes, LFTs. Once I'm happy with the list of tests, I choose Create Set, and I give the set a name, for instance, Standard Screen again. I hit the tick. You'll see Standard Screen is in the test lists. I can press the X here, and just to use a set, you just click and you just search for Standard Screen like I've done. You can, just like it for Genie, you can request individual tests on top of the set. So one question I often get asked about Gen 2 pathology sets is why does it say Standard Screen here, not each individual test? When it prints out on the request form, it actually does list each individual test. It just shows on the screen the words Standard Screen. The appointment wrap-up is a way for clinical staff to communicate with admin staff about what item number took place in the rooms and any post-consultation actions. To use the wrap-up, we click the wrap-up button at the top right. This shows a list of previously used item numbers. To add a new item to the list, I just search for it and click. It'll remember in my list for next time. I put in my message at the bottom to communicate with the admin staff, and I click Send. If I now have a look at my appointment diary, I want to show you next to the patient's name, the item number appears and see in 2 weeks. If I click once, you'll see the item number and message appears, and I click the invoice button. You'll see that the item number has already been added to the invoice, and there's a banner in blue at the top, appointment wrap-up, see in 2 weeks. So I think the wrap-up is a fantastic function, especially with the move to telehealth. A lot of psychiatrists, in my experience, are not in the same building as the admin staff. So it means that the psychiatrist can use the wrap-up function to communicate with the admin staff about what item took place in any post-consultation actions. And then the admin staff can just look at the appointment diary or the invoice to work out what is my next step. If you add an attachment in Gen 2, you can also categorize that attachment. This is a great feature, as any handwritten consultation notes can be categorized as a consult note and appear in the consult note window, as an example. A letter from a lawyer can be categorized as correspondence, so it appears in the right section. So to add an attachment, we first click Add, then Attachment. We click Choose File, and it then asks you on your computer which of the files we wish to attach. I highlight them, and I choose Open. I can now rename the file to show us something different in Gen 2. And I was talking about that category dropdown. Here's attachment. So attachment will show us a paperclip. Handwritten consult notes, put as consult note. If this is a pathology and radiology report you're looking at, it's a diagnostic report. If it's a letter, you should put that as correspondence. And you may not be doing procedures or pregnancy records as part of psychiatry, but they're available as options for you. I'm going to choose correspondence. Next, I'm going to change my next file name. And I get to choose the category again as a diagnostic report, for instance. So when I go upload, anything categorized as a letter will show as a letter icon, anything categorized as a result file will show in the result file section. If I wish to change the category for anything you've already added, click the three dots icon next to it, edit, and you can then change the category to whatever it is you would like. You've also got the option of changing the file name. I'm going to change this one to attachment, and you'll see that this has now moved it into the attachment section. You'll see that the icon here is also changed to a paperclip. So another nice thing for psychiatrists that I find is, as a nice workflow, is if you have an iPad and on that iPad you're handwriting your consultation notes into a specific app on that iPad. If that app allows you to save that handwritten consultation note as a PDF, you could open the Gentoo website on your iPad, and when you choose Add Attachment, often there's a button there that allows you to choose a file, and you can actually have a look on your iPad and try and find that PDF. I can't say it works for all handwriting applications, but it is a workflow you may want to investigate for those of you already using a handwriting app on your iPad or Android tablet. So just like I mentioned that you can use Gentoo on your iPad and try and attach a PDF, you can also use Gentoo on your mobile phone. So how it works is that you log into your mobile phone and you go to the web browser. You go from the appointment diary. I'm going to click on a specific patient, and I choose Add at the top right, Attachment. I can click on Choose File, and I'm going to take photo or video. You've taken a photo. I choose Use Photo. I get the option of changing my file name, just the same as using Add Attachment from the desktop computer. And I can change the category here as well, if I needed to, just the same as I described before. So when I choose Upload, the nice thing is that this photo that I've just taken does not belong on your phone. It's been uploaded directly into Gentoo. For psychiatry, often I find it's the childhood psychiatrists who are using this particular function, because a childhood psychiatrist might want to be taking photos maybe of a drawing the child has made. So you can take the photo of the drawing, it uploads directly into Gentoo, does not belong on your phone. I'm going to see if I can just, for everybody's benefit, just move back slightly. I just want to talk about, for those of you that were interested in using it on an iPad, if you use it on an iPad, it's that Choose Files button to try and attach the PDF, if worth experimenting with. So as some of you may already know, in addition to the core offerings of Genie or Gentoo, there are optional add-ons that some practices use to help get these tasks done more efficiently and effectively. By partnering with select companies who provide these products, we can integrate them into Genie and Gentoo and provide even better solutions that connect directly into practice workflows. If you'd like to know anything more about these products, please contact our sales team.
Thank you, Sean. And I hope that everyone learned some new things there from Sean. You've heard us mention new voice in the app in Gentoo, and I'm sure many of you are probably familiar with DMO or Dragon Medical. You may even use that. So, but if you're not using either the voice app in Gentoo or this DMO in Genie, and you'd like to, we can offer you a 30-day free trial. We partner with Nuance on this, and they've been very supportive of that. So some information will be sent to you after this to enable you to access that. If you do already use Dragon in Genie, or in Gentoo, and you want to continue, you're buying that from another third-party reseller, encourage you to reach out and ask for our pricing, because we've been able to negotiate some really good pricing with Nuance. And just by flipping over to us, you should be able to save a bit of money each year on that cost. Just to keep a reminder about ongoing opportunities to continue to learn. We have our free lunch and learns that are on every month. If you can't make them or your staff can't make them, they are recorded and sent out to those that register. So I encourage you to register even if you can't attend. The next one for Jeannie is on managing Eclipse and Medicare. And on Gen 2, it'll be about improving your prescribing experience. We also still do in-person training. This is particularly well loved by the practice staff. So the next one is on Jeannie in practice management, particularly good for if you've got reception staff that might be moving up into greater responsibility of overall managing your practice. And then also billing and quoting, which is always a challenging and complex area. So they're the face-to-face trainings that we have available. They're in Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney and Perth. Just a reminder about how to get in touch with us. Obviously, I'm sure you all know the support phone number. Our support desk is still staffed from 7:30 till 7 for Jeannie, 7:30 till 6 for Gen 2. That's Brisbane time. We've got one person that's job is to continue to evolve the content in the knowledge base. And that, so we do encourage you to go to the knowledge base, submit a ticket through to ask your questions through that way into support, or you may even be able to find the information yourself. We do have live chat now, and we're getting some great engagement, really high numbers, increasing week on week. People are actually loving live chat. Particularly, we're finding the reception staff, your waiting room's full. They don't have time to get on the phone. They can just be over at the side chatting to Jeannie support and getting that feedback or information back live. Gen 2, there is in-product help. So you can go into Gen 2 and ask questions directly into Gen 2 as well. We still have all of our staff based here in Brisbane. We have close to 30 plus staff providing support to our customers, and it's a key area that we continue to invest in. We also have our trainers around the country. I think we're the last practice management software vendor that has physical trainers in every capital city that are available to either do remote training for you and the staff in the practices, or come on site as well. And they're the ones that would actually do the help with the training if you move from Jeannie onto Gen 2 as well.